Help me reach 7,000 subscribers. Please like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. Your feedback helps make the content better. I came home on a Tuesday, and the house felt like a stage set with the lead missing. Jenna always checked in if she was going to be late. That was our basic rule, the one we never had to write down. I stood in the kitchen staring at the empty hook where her keys usually lived. The slow cooker was off. The dog had that look like he'd waited at the door and lost hope. No message. No missed calls. I poured tap water into a glass and watched the clock chew through minutes. 9:30. 10:15. At 10:50, the lock finally clicked. She paused in the doorway like a teenager sneaking into a quiet house. Purse clutched to her side, phone in the other hand, eyes doing that quick scan judges give defendants. Traffic, she blurted, dropping her purse on a chair. At 10:50. There was an accident on the freeway. I didn't want to text while driving. You're good at voice to text. Not tonight, Mark. She moved toward the hallway. I'm exhausted. Can we not? Something in the rhythm was off. She never used "not tonight" on logistics. That line was reserved for other categories. I nodded like a bartender closing a tab. Eat anything? I asked. I grabbed a salad with Claire. You can handle yourself, right? Have for 43 years, I said, and she flinched at the number like I'd used it as a weapon. She disappeared down the hall. The dog looked at me, then after her, then back at me, undecided which human was writing the schedule. I patted his head. If I'd known where it was headed, I would have started counting exits that night. By breakfast, she was sunshine and oatmeal. Sorry about yesterday, she said without any specifics. Work piled up. Claire had a meltdown about her manager. It turned into a thing. Big thing if it eats the evening. I told you I was exhausted. You told me at 11. She rolled her eyes. Are you keeping timesheets now? I let that pass. We still doing dinner with Pete and Linda Friday? Maybe, she murmured, and tucked her phone face down under a napkin. Phone under a napkin. Not casual. Not us. She'd always been the person who tossed its screen up anywhere. Now it had manners. Work calling? I asked. Can you not hover? Not hovering. Asking. Well, don't. There's cold. And then there's that refrigerator tone people use when they want you to feel like you're intruding in your own kitchen. I rinsed the bowl and left it in the rack. Her spoon clinked like a signal that I'd been dismissed. She leaned in as I grabbed my jacket. Let's be adults, she said. Try me. I need more space this week. I've got a presentation, and Claire's going through it. Don't take it personally if I'm not around. Tried not to, I said. Didn't work. So I'll adjust. Adjust how? I'll be gone more too. Shop night at Nate's. Early mornings at the gym. We'll overlap when it happens. She nodded like she'd won a small case. Good. Good for both. I added, and watched her eyes stay neutral. I didn't call it a red flag. I don't use those words. I call it a memo from reality. I read it, filed it, and revised my schedule. That was initiative 1. By Thursday, the tone changed again. Jenna was a master of small jokes that landed like paper cuts. She stood at the door, one shoe on, one shoe dangling from 2 fingers. Can you walk the dog at lunch? She asked. If I'm late, he gets weird. I'm swamped. I can do it before work. At lunch, you're up. You're the one who likes structure, she shot back. I like agreements. You want to renegotiate? Say it straight. Fine. I'll figure it out, she said, and slipped the second shoe on as she backed out toward the driveway. The dog looked at me like he'd read the start of a new policy. Friday at Pete and Linda's was our second memo. Backyard, string lights, cheap folding chairs. Pete's a project manager with a bad poker face. Linda runs the neighborhood group and can organize a Thanksgiving parade in 2 texts. We showed up with a salad tray. Jenna made a beeline for Linda. I found the cooler. Pete clapped me on the shoulder. You too good, he asked. We pay our bills, and we don't yell at the dog. He stared at Jenna across the yard. She seems busy. Busy is the new normal, I said. At the table, Linda poured wine. Jenna, you've been a ghost, she teased. Keeping secrets? Jenna smiled too hard. It's called ambition. You might try it, she said, and laughed like it was harmless. Linda blinked. The line hit me like a sneeze in a quiet church. I set my glass down. Hey, we don't knock hosts, I said, light voice, not joking. They feed us, they get respect. It's a simple exchange. Jenna waved it off. She knows I love her. Then say it without the jab, I replied. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't stack sentences. I just set a boundary and left it on the table. Pete slid me a look. Later, by the grill, he muttered, "You want me to run interference?" "No," I said. "We're good." Back at the table, Jenna's phone buzzed. She palmed it like a magician and angled the screen away. Linda pretended not to notice. Pete stared at his shoes. After dessert, Jenna announced, "I may swing by Claire's tomorrow morning. Coffee in crisis. Don't wait on me. Text when you head out." I said, "What are we, 16? No. We're two people with calendars." She rolled her eyes again and smiled for the group. That smile had PR tone written all over it. On the way home, she kept the radio loud. She turned it down only to say, "Don't embarrass me like that again." "Which part embarrassed you? The part where I asked you not to smack talk our host? Or the part where I'm supposed to guess your schedule?" "You micromanage. I make agreements." She shook her head and set her phone face down in the cup holder. Face down had become a character in our marriage. The next 2 weeks laid down the pattern like track beside a highway. Late nights, vague reports of coffee with Claire, the phone traveling face down from room to room like a hostage. I didn't storm. I didn't sniff. I did what men do when the ground moves. We checked the level. I shifted money into a separate savings bucket, split our meal plan, posted my own schedule to the family calendar, and stopped asking about hers. I started keeping receipts and stopped volunteering Friday reservations. When she called me controlling, I thanked her for the review and cut the conversation short. "Wow," she said one night as she watched me lock my laptop at 9. "Look at you suddenly having boundaries." "Not suddenly," I corrected. "Just visible now. You're overreacting." "I'm matching the energy." She scoffed and headed to the shower. The dog followed her, and 10 seconds later trotted back like he'd chosen the room with fewer arguments. Midweek, around lunch, she texted, "Coffee with Claire again. Might be late. Don't wait on me." I typed, "Copy. I won't." Then I clicked the Rides app on my own phone and watched the little car icon sit 2 blocks from our house at 3:10 p.m., then head west. That wasn't paranoia. That was curiosity with a credit card. I shut my laptop, grabbed my keys, and left the office with a wave to my assistant. "You out?" she asked. "Field trip," I said. I tailed the driver 3 car lengths back. Easy, like I'd done it before in another life. Jenna's driver cut across town and rolled up to a cafe near the river that we'd used once for brunch. Street parking was crowded, so I pulled into a lot behind a hardware store and walked the last block with a coffee I didn't want. I posted across the street, behind a newspaper box. No theatrics, just eyes. Jenna stepped out of the car, tugged her hair like she was about to walk into an interview, and slowed near the door. A man peeled off the wall and opened his arms like they had a license. I knew his back before I saw his face. Tall, gym regular shoulders, that bounce guys keep when they still play pickup ball on Thursdays. Kyle. The ex who'd been a story from years ago. The one who sometimes left comments on her social posts until she muted him for peace. He was already smiling. They hugged like ceremony. Not quick. Not one-armed. They stood there, forehead to cheek, like a couple who'd done this 100 times and wouldn't mind 101. I didn't move. You don't rush a fire you didn't light. They went inside and picked a corner table by the window. They looked comfortable the way worn-in shoes look comfortable. She laughed with her whole face. He leaned in and lowered his voice. She reached across and squeezed his hand like he'd said something brave. After 10 minutes, when the waiter turned away, she lifted her phone and tilted it toward him. He grimaced and shook his head. She tucked it away and laughed again. I took 2 photos. Not for social media. For the guy in the mirror who sometimes tries to rewrite history to make it kinder. Then I walked to my car. I didn't call anyone. I didn't circle the block. I drove home at the speed limit and fed the dog. At 7, she breezed in with grocery store flowers like props. "Claire's a mess," she announced, and set the bouquet on the counter. I told her to take time for herself. "I might swing by again Saturday. You get points for coaching?" I asked, and moved the flowers to a vase. She watched me a beat. "You're different." "Thanks." That wasn't a compliment. It wasn't an insult either. She folded her arms. "Say what you want to say." I already said it 2 weeks ago. I'm adjusting. Meaning, I'm not chasing what doesn't want to be caught. She laughed, the sound brittle. "God, you love making speeches." "No, I prefer checklists. Here's one. We share logistics. We don't take shots at people we claim to love, and we don't keep screens hidden like contraband. That's how I operate. If you want a different model, pick a different dealership. And what if I do? Then you do, I said, and put the flowers in the center of the table like we were staging a house for sale. The next morning, she cracked eggs and slid a plate toward me. Breakfast? She offered, soft voice, no edge. Thanks, I said and ate. I was harsh last night, she tried. Yeah, I'm just stressed. Then rest. I want to. With you. Schedule it, I said. I've got shop night tonight. Her eyes warmed like I'd moved back into orbit. Skip it. Let's do a movie. I'll pick something you like this time. That's a first, I said, smiling. She swatted my arm with the dish towel like we were fine. This was the first smokescreen, sweetness, breakfast, a hint of old US. It landed and slid right off. I wasn't cruel. I wasn't fooled. I moved my keys from the hook to my pocket. I went to shop night anyway. Nate runs a garage behind his house like a club for men who don't want to talk about feelings, but do anyway once they're under a truck. He poured me coffee and nodded at the wrench I wasn't using. You look like a guy watching a fire from the sidewalk, he said. I saw something I can't unsee. Inside or outside your house? Outside. Inside comes later if I let it. You going to? Deciding. Meanwhile, I'm fixing things that respond to tools. He grunted approval. That was foreign territory initiative number 2. I kept my outside life running. I didn't cancel it for her new schedule. I widened the lane for my own time. Back home at 9, Jenna sat on the couch in a robe like a commercial. Candles. Our first soundtrack in months. The dog snored from the rug. She stood when I walked in. I made tea, she offered. We could talk. Tomorrow, I said. That's cold. That's a boundary. She swallowed whatever script she'd prepared and blew out the candles like it was my birthday and she'd run out of matches. We went to bed at opposite edges of the same mattress. In the dark, I stared at the ceiling and wrote my next move. I wasn't going to ask questions to hear pretty answers. I was going to change the conditions. Saturday, I swapped the passcode on my laptop, moved a stack of mail with my name on it to my office, and set the house Wi-Fi to a new network name. When she asked why her phone was bouncing between signals, I told her, I reset the router. New logins on the fridge. It was in my handwriting. A small thing, but it said what I needed to say. This house works on open, not on secret. At the same time, I asked my HR rep on Monday what the process was for updating beneficiaries if life events shifted. I wasn't being dramatic. I was marking a path. I also called a lawyer for the adult version of a weather report. What happens if I decide this storm is permanent? He told me what papers look like, how assets split if you're organized, how timelines work if both people sign instead of turning it into theater. I listened, took notes, and arranged for a set of documents to be ready if I wanted them. I didn't call that revenge. I called that an umbrella. Tuesday, Jenna invited us to a barbecue at her friend Tessa's place. It'll be chill, she said. Bring your sense of humor. I always do, I said, and set the printer to work on some basic financial summaries. I didn't hide the pages. I left them on my office desk. When she walked by and saw them, she said, "Are you expecting an audit?" Always. At Tessa's, I knew 3 people and the grill. The music was loud enough for small eyes. Jenna told a circle of strangers that I snore like a freight train and I can't tell a Sauvignon from a Chardonnay. It wasn't deadly. It was the tone. The tilt of her chin like she'd earned the right to frame me as a punchline. I took the skewer of shrimp from the host and said, "If you want a better story, ask me about the time Jenna tried to fix a clogged drain with glitter." The circle laughed. Jenna smiled tight. I didn't embarrass her. I equalized the field. Afterward, I found her near the cooler. "Don't do that," she whispered. "Don't tee me up," I replied. "You're so literal." "I'm practical." "Fine. We're leaving." "In 10, I said and stayed put. She drove home quiet. At a stoplight, she muttered, "You've changed." "Yep. I hate it." "I know," I said, "and I'm still doing it." She slammed the cabinet door when we got in like punctuation, then disappeared into the shower. I poured water for myself and stroked the dog's ears until his breathing evened. I was done asking for respectful tone. I was installing it. 2 days later, Jenna pulled her second soft trick. She texted, misspelled, and called me by the nickname she used when she wanted something. "Dinner tonight?" "My treat. That place by the river." "Can't," I replied. "Working late." I miss you, she sent back. You miss control. I typed, then erased it. I wrote, we'll sync on Sunday. I'm booked. She responded with a heart. It was a sticker placed on a cracked window. Sunday came, and I used the morning to move a few things into the guest room. Not dramatic. 2 sets of gym clothes, some books, my laptop dock. I stripped our calendar of joint errands that I usually handled without a word. I left a note on the fridge. Starting this week, we handle our own laundry and meals. I'm available for plans we both agree to in advance. Not a threat. Not a speech. A new policy. Jenna read it and laughed. You're ridiculous. You'll enjoy the peace. You really think being roommates is going to fix this? It's not to fix it. It's to stop bleeding while we decide if the limb stays or goes. Charming metaphor, doctor. Plain English, I said, and carried my sneakers down the hall. She came to the guest room doorway with her arms crossed. If you want to leave, leave. You first, I said without heat. Her eyes flashed. You wish. No, I don't wish. I plan. She didn't like that verb. She left me the silence like a parting gift. For a week, she alternated between clipped orders and chilly indifference. She forgot shared commitments, then criticized me for not reading her mind. I stopped reminding and started recording. Twice she came home with hair and makeup set to audition and pretended she'd been at a nail appointment that ran long. I didn't buy it. I didn't announce I didn't buy it. I lived my schedule, worked my hours, ate my meals at simple tables, and answered every provocation with the shortest version of the truth. Meanwhile, I kept the photos exactly where I wanted them, on my phone, in a folder with a name that would bore anyone. I didn't study them. I didn't need to. The human brain is good at reruns. Mine didn't deserve them. The final rearrangement came a week later, on a Wednesday night. She walked in at 9:30, hair smelling like somebody else's cologne with a different bass note than mine. She tossed her purse onto the couch and stood there like a prosecutor. What are we doing? She demanded. Dishes. Laundry. Taxes. I said, holding up a pile of mail. I'm serious. So am I. This, she waved between us, is not a marriage. You're right. Say something real, Mark. Okay. I don't chase ghosts. Her jaw tensed. Stop talking in riddles. That wasn't a riddle. She took 2 steps closer. Do you care at all? Yes. About me. About respect. You think I don't respect you. I think you respect me when it's practical. That's not fair. Maybe not. It's honest. You're acting like a stranger. I learned it from you. She blinked. Fine. If you won't fight for this, I'm done pretending. She drew a breath and went for her line. I'm going to Kyle. He actually understands me. He actually values me. You. She pointed at me like she was handing down sentence. You changed. I didn't flinch. I reached into my backpack on the counter, pulled out the envelope I'd put there 2 days earlier, and set it on the table. It made a small sound, paper on wood, the most reasonable noise I'd heard all month. What is that? She asked, voice steady but color traded for caution. Documents, I said. If you're leaving, sign the top sheet. Take a copy. Tell me when you'll pick up the rest of your things. I flipped it open to the tabs. House stays. Accounts are separate as of last week. We'll keep it clean. She didn't touch the envelope. You're serious. Completely. You're not even going to. No. You don't want to hear why? I don't want to manage your story. This is insane. You're throwing us away because I had a hard month. You threw us away on a sidewalk by the river, I answered. I watched. Her mouth opened, shut. The field shifted. She tried for one more play. You're heartless. No, I said. Just done. Her chin trembled, not out of romance, but because plans were dissolving. Then I'm leaving, she said, as if I'd beg. I didn't. She grabbed a suitcase from the closet and started packing clothes like a shopper on a deadline. She moved fast, making loud choices, waiting for me to stop her like a movie scene. I didn't move from my chair. I drank water. I petted the dog when he got confused and sat between us. She zipped the bag and rolled it to the door. You'll regret this, she tossed over her shoulder. No, I said. You will. That made her stop. You don't get to have the last word. I just did, I replied and held the door. Don't come back. She stared, expecting me to at least soften it. When I didn't, she wheeled the suitcase out, got into a ride hail without looking up, and left like the house had never been hers. The door clicked behind her. The dog leaned on my leg. The silence felt like honest air. 2 days were quiet and loud at the same time. I worked more than usual because work has predictable outcomes. I left early, came home late, and fell asleep with the dog at the foot of the bed in the guest room like we were roommates who understood the rules. I ate simple dinners, did the dishes, and answered only the calls I needed for the business. I didn't tell anyone the full story. I just told Pete I couldn't make Friday and told Nate I'd bring the torque wrench back next week. On the third night, at 9:30, the doorbell rang. I opened it to Jenna with a sweetness strained across her face like icing that won't set. "Can we talk?" she asked. She'd been crying, but that's not a crime. It's also not a pass. 2 minutes, I said. I said things I didn't mean, she blurted. I was trying to get a reaction. I was scared. I don't want to throw us away. I panicked. You didn't panic by the river. She flinched. I ran into him. It wasn't. I held up my phone and tapped the 3 thumbnails. She went quiet. I set the phone face up on the entry table. No speeches. Just facts. You don't want me, I said. You want comfort. You want an option. He didn't take you, did he? Mark, he didn't take you, I repeated. And this, I tilted my head toward the hallway, meaning our life, looks better than a sublet. That's not love. That's logistics. That's not fair. It's accurate. I made a mistake. You made a habit. I'm not here for it. She stepped closer, reaching like she could remake the shape of the conversation. We can fix this. No, I said. We can end it clean. Please. You'll find your way, I replied. Just not through this door. I picked up my phone, tapped the screen off, and held the edge of the door with my hand. Don't come back, Jenna. She stared like she was recalculating a route and kept getting the same error. Then the tears got louder. She covered her face with both hands. Not grief, not love, but stunned disappointment that the old tricks didn't work on the new rules. She tried one more line. Do you really hate me that much? I don't hate you, I answered. I respect myself. I closed the door. It clicked once. I slid the deadbolt, not for drama, for sleep. The next morning, I sent the documents to the address she'd used in her last email. I included a short note. I'll be home Saturday at noon if you want to pick up your boxes. If not, I'll have them delivered to your new place. I didn't add threats, flowers, or memories. Just the plan. Saturday at noon, she didn't show. Monday, the signed copy arrived in my email without a message. Just signatures in digital ink that looked like they belonged to 2 strangers. Pete dropped by unannounced with a 6-pack of sparkling water and stood on my porch like he didn't know how to deliver concern without making it worse. You good? He asked. I'm better, I said. You sure? I've been worse. He nodded. Linda told me to keep my opinions to myself. She's wise. You want to talk? Not yet. You want me to help move boxes? Saturday, I said. 11. We moved the last of Jenna's things to the garage. I labeled them by room and didn't open a single one. Nate showed up with a dolly and a deadpan. You want me to make jokes or shut up? He asked. Split the difference, I said. He grunted, and that was perfect. The house got quiet in a new way. Not as in lonely, as in clear. I changed the locks because that's what you do, not because I was scared. I canceled streaming bundles we never watched. I trimmed subscriptions. I kept the dog on our routine. I slept in the master again on a Wednesday and realized the sheets still smelled like detergent and nothing else. Jenna texted twice across the next month. The first time she wrote, I miss you. The second time she wrote, coffee? I didn't answer. I blocked the number. Her emails came from another address with one-liners. Can we talk? I archived them without opening. There's a difference between being cold and being finished. I wasn't cold. I was done. The papers went through efficiently because I'd done the homework early. No drama, no pile-on. We had a clean record. I had clean receipts, and the house remained mine because that was the agreement we set when we bought it, and because I didn't turn it into a battlefield. My accounts stayed my accounts. I didn't crow. I just kept paying the utilities on time. Work got better because I stopped dragging around the weight of an unspoken problem. I took on a client I'd been avoiding because I didn't want to be away 3 nights in a row. Now 3 nights away sounded like a bike ride. I said yes. I brought in a project 2 weeks early and split the bonus with my team. I bought myself a used truck I'd wanted for 5 years and installed a decent tool chest instead of the mess I'd tolerated. Nate approved. That's high praise in our circle. I didn't become a monk. I said yes to things I'd said no to because I was pretending balance looked like giving up pieces of myself. I met friends for dinner without checking a phone I no longer carried like an ankle monitor. I fixed the fence, painted the guest room, and put a small stereo in the garage to keep me company while I messed with wood projects and pretended I knew what I was doing. The dog seemed to like the music. A month later, Linda waved me over at the grocery store. "You look lighter," she said. "I got rid of a backpack full of rocks," I answered. "I heard she moved across town." "I don't track it." "She's been asking around." "About me?" "About what went wrong." "She tells people you changed." "I did," I said, and put a carton of eggs in the cart. That was the point. On a Saturday morning, I went for coffee and ran into Claire, the real Claire, the one Jenna used as a flag the day she met him by the river. Claire gave me a look that didn't know which side to land on. "You okay?" she asked. "I'm excellent," I said, not ironic. "She told me you were cold." I told her I was done. She stared at her cup. "He's not moving her in," she said, not meaning to, like the word slid out by mistake. "That's a shame for him," I said. "He misses out on the joy of having his Wi-Fi renamed 3 times a week." She snorted. "You're not angry?" "I used it up," I said and sipped. "Now I'm busy." I didn't wish her harm. I didn't wish her luck. I wished myself some quiet mornings and a few evenings where the only agenda was finishing a project and seasoning a steak without a debate about the spice palette. I started running again. I said yes to a weekend trip with friends to a small lake where we caught nothing and lied about catching everything. I stopped trying to fix things that denied being broken. A few months went by. I met someone at a Saturday volunteer event who asked me how I take my coffee and didn't correct my answer. We didn't rush. We didn't label. We talked like adults who've read the manual on themselves. When she missed a call, she texted, "Hey, got tied up, call you at 6, and then called at 6. Radical, I know. We go slow. That's not a cliffhanger. It's a reflection that I still trust the part of me that reads memos and acts accordingly. The last message Jenna sent arrived from a number I didn't recognize, a sentence built to hook. I made mistakes, but we had something real. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. She knows exactly where I drew the line. She learned it in a kitchen where paper scraped on wood and the old game ended on time. People ask me if I regret anything. Sure. I regret the hours I spent trying to bargain with a scoreboard. I regret not installing certain boundaries sooner. But regrets are just receipts. You look at the total, you decide if you'll ever shop there again, and you move on. My life now is simple. The mortgage gets paid. The dog gets walked. The truck starts. I put real effort into the people who earn it. I answer calls from my friends. I give my time to work that pays and hobbies that don't. I cook better than I used to. I sleep better than I did. I have a key rack with one set of keys on it and no mysteries. The thing about respect is you can't outsource it. You teach people how to treat you by what you let slide. I let too much slide for a while because I wanted a story to be true. When the story wrote itself differently, I didn't edit it. I walked out of the theater. No stomping. No speech. Just the door closing with one sentence that mattered. Don't come back. I'll be happy to have you back, dear viewer. Subscribe so we don't lose touch, and your like really helps us a lot.